meet innovators and people like you who are starting companies. And um, my knowledge is not very deep. If you ask me how to code Node.js, I don't know how to do that. But my knowledge is very, very wide. I get to see many, many different technologies. Like this morning, I was at Sephora. Last night, I was at Honda. Tomorrow, I'm at Amazon up in Seattle. So I get to see a lot of different things. And because I get to see so many different things, I get to see patterns happening before most other people do. And I build relationships with people who are building the companies. So I have a little bit of a head start on the rest of you. And so I'm going to give you just a short version of my talk so we can have more of a Q&A. But this is the beginnings of the book that we're writing that will come out next year called Beyond Mobile. And what I started noticing was there's a variety of things that are happening that are going to devalue our mobile screen. So in 10 years, we're not going to be walking around like this anymore. We're going to wear a piece of glass on our face that's going to show us stuff in the world. And this is the founder of Meta, which tomorrow at TED is going to show off their latest glass. And if you've heard of Magic Leap, or Meta is a competitor of Magic Leap or Microsoft HoloLens. So these are the new AR glasses. Now, these are probably 3 to 5 years away from being really a consumerish thing. But they're coming, and they're very exciting products that are coming. You look through these things. The one he's showing off tomorrow has 2K screens on both eyes, and you look through them to the real world, and it puts virtual items. It could put CNN on the floor. We could put a game on the floor. We could put virtual clothing on you. We could walk around the shopping mall and interact with the shopping mall. I was just at Sephora, and they're already building augmented reality signs. So you come up to the sign with your mobile phone, and it augments. It tells you stuff about the products. And gives you new opportunities. You're going to do that with glasses. You're going to walk up to something, and it's going to spray off a whole display, right, when it sees a logo, or when you cross a geofence or get closer to something. Yeah, beacons are going to play an important role in this, but it's way beyond beacons in this world. So in these things, there's 2 cameras. And by the way, the self-driving car is using the same kind of software. They're using 2 cameras. The 2 cameras are being differenced so they can see depth. And it lays a mat of polygons that you can't see on top of everything. And then it can put virtual things on those polygons, right? And this is what it actually looks like when you're looking around and seeing the developer's view off of these dual cameras. And today, the guys who made Stereo, this is Stereo Labs. They make a Z sensor that quite a few people are using for robots and other things. They say today you can do it on a laptop, and to do it on a mobile phone, they need Moore's Law to flip 1 to 3 more times, which means 18 months to 50 months, somewhere in that range. And they're waiting just for the GPU to get a little faster to lay down these polygons in real time to give you really low latency view. Now, what Meta showed me was they're using the NVIDIA card. So they're tethered to a PC. And it works on that, right? And it works amazingly well. It's really amazing to wear one of these products. But you're tethered, and you have a device that's fairly big on your face. Not going to be very interesting to consumers yet, but it's certainly interesting in enterprise. If you work at Caterpillar on the tractors, you're already wearing either ODG or Meta glasses, and it augments the tractor. It shows you how to fix the tractor. It puts CAD drawings on top of the tractor while wearing this, right? If you go to Disney, they designed the new park in AR. You go to Ford, they're using VR and AR to design cars and walk around the cars with these glasses on. Anything that has a CAD drawing can be fairly easily put into these things. So when you start hearing the hype about Magic Leap, this is looking through the Magic Leap glass, and it's putting a virtual item on top of the real world. Now notice this is the real world, this is augmented, and it goes properly underneath the table. It senses everything in the world and knows how to put virtual items underneath things and behind things and in front of things, right? And on things. So you're going to have no more are you going to buy a TV screen. You're not going to need a TV screen, right? Your glasses are going to be the TV screen. And your glasses are going to show you 20 TV screens. You could have 20 TV screens on the floor here, right? So why do I need to own more TV screens? Don't need it. Yeah. And so, yeah, when I saw Meta, I realized you're just not going to buy, you're going to wear these glasses a lot. These are the ODG glasses. They're made over here in near the ballpark. He started out sort of like Meta did in the military. They made these for fighter pilots and military people for 10 years. And Mayron, the guy who started Meta, said, 10 years ago, these glasses were more than $100,000 for a jet pilot, right? And if you're flying a plane that costs $2 billion, adding on another 100 grand is not a big deal, right? But the costs now are coming down to where they're less than $1,000. And so that's why you can see the price slope is aiming at about 3 years from now is going to be consumer, and the size is getting smaller and the sharpness is getting higher. All of these things aim at 3 years from now. 3 years from now is when you're going to see these come out. But he's looking at a paper picture, but when you're using the glass, it augments into a 3D model. So anything that's CAD can be augmented and can do that. It's already here. Meta is totally. If you've seen the Tony Stark lab, that's like what it's like to wear a Meta or a Magic Leap, right? Yeah. There's other companies. There's Epiphany Eyewear. These kids came out of Stanford and they built a sunglass that has a 1080p camera in it, and this is 2 years old. They got bought by Snapchat. So this year, Snapchat's going to come out with a connected camera, and this is the camera in a sunglass frame, and that's 2 years old. So think about how much smaller it is today than it was 2 years ago as a prototype, right? We could talk a lot about virtual reality. Let's just talk about the high end of the headsets. This is the HTC Vive. There's the Oculus Rift and the Sony PlayStation VR. The Vive has the best technology if you're just a nerd and want the best technology. It has 2 sensors you're going to put on the wall that spray light into a space of about 15 by 15. And it sees you moving around in that space. So you can walk around the space. You can see people entering the space if you have the goggles on because there's a camera on the front. And the action of being in one of these things is stunning. You're in a virtual world that's very sharp and very low latency as you look around. It's redrawing extraordinarily fast. And you have controllers that it can see itself in 3D, and they're very advanced. And that's true of all the ones at the high end. So HTC is going to be the technology leader. Sony is probably going to be the market share leader because you plug it into your PlayStation 4, and they're going to have a bigger installed base and a much bigger set of games and other things to play on the PlayStation. And then there's Oculus, which I'll show you later. There's a lot of low-end devices hitting the market. Google Cardboard, Viewmaster, and there's a whole bunch of free ones that are either $30 or less. And marketers are starting to put their names on these things and give them away for free. Absolute showed me this one at one of the marketing conferences, and they give them away to 5,000 fans for a music event, and they said the average time spent in this was 19 minutes, which was very long for a marketing campaign to have an interaction with the brand. And so you're going to see more of these things just be given away for free. And the nice thing is your mobile phone fits in there, and you get a brand experience. You're going to see new kinds of cameras this year. This is the Views, which is a 360-degree 3D camera for less than $1,000. That's coming in September, supposedly. But GoPro, Nikon, Ricoh, and many others, Spirit-Cam. There's many startups in this world. And then there's high-end cameras like the Jaunt or the Lytro or the Nokia that are going to be it for the professional level, people building virtual reality or augmented reality. So when you start thinking about a world with these glasses on, I start dreaming about a new world that I'm going to want to interact with everything differently. And the Internet of Things is starting to show us how different this world is getting already and is about to get. This is a company here in San Francisco called Cantaloupe. And his dad started maintaining vending machines because he came here as an immigrant and couldn't get a job, had a few $100s, but could get a job maintaining vending machines, right? And built a business up where he owns a lot of vending machines around California. And his kid comes along and goes to business school and says, this is stupid because you have to park a big truck out front. You have to go to the vending machine. You have to open it up. You have to count how many Diet Cokes sold or how many Snickers bars sold or whatnot. Then you have to go back to the truck and get the inventory and then go back to the machine. Now they put a Jasper card into the vending machine, an Internet of Things card. By the way, Cisco just bought Jasper, so that shows this market's starting to get hot because companies like this are starting to do it. And the Jasper card has a cell phone SIM in it, so it can connect to the cloud. And so now you buy a Diet Coke, and the database in the cloud knows that a Diet Coke just sold. So now he completely changed the supply chain, and he's saving millions of dollars a month because the inventory is in a warehouse, not in the truck. And in the warehouse, they make a bin specifically for this machine with the Diet Cokes. And they also know that it's sold out real fast, so they need to refill it, right? So it doesn't sit empty for a week, right? On and on. He was making a lot more money because he connected this thing. But imagine walking up to this with an augmented reality glass. You're going to change your behavior here. First of all, the logos are going to augment and tell you stuff, and you're going to just talk to the machine and maybe even have it delivered. And let's talk about some of the ways that's going to happen. We can talk about self-driving cars. Where do I want to go with this? Is that Mercedes gave me a ride in their self-driving car, and it's pretty mind-blowing technology as well. It's very associative with the augmented reality because they're going to use the same techniques to build a 3D map of the world, to understand what is it looking at, right? Because it needs to look at a street sign and understand that street sign. It needs to look at a stoplight and understand the stoplight. It needs to look at a human being and understand what is the human being trying to say when it's doing this, you know? It has to understand that. And that's what Google's cars are doing. When they're recording it when they go down the street, right? They're watching the human beings, and the machines are learning about human behavior and trying to build predictive models of what is that bicyclist doing next? What is the human saying when he's saying this or saying this, right? What are the eyes doing, right? And all of these techniques are going to lead into augmented reality worlds where I'm going to look at you and you're going to augment yourself. We were just at Sephora, a big cosmetic retailer, and they're already making virtual cosmetics. So 10 years from now, you're going to buy $500 worth of virtual cosmetics to make yourself augment to other people, right? Using these techniques. These technologies are starting to change all sorts of different products. This is Oakley's Airwave ski goggle. It has the Recon Instruments package in it, intel about the company, right? It shows you where on the mountain you are, how fast you're going, where your kids are. It lets you chat with your kids too if they have the iPhone or Android phone in their pocket. And it shows you the hang time of your last jump because it has sensors that can sense that you're jumping, right? I don't jump on purpose, by the way, but we might talk about how physical spaces are changing because of technology. This is Levi Stadium where the Super Bowl was just held. It's 60 minutes down. Well, you guys know where it is. In the stadium, there's 2,000 beacons, and there's 1,200 Wi-Fi hotspots, and there's 45 gigabits of internet in and out of the stadium. And Verizon put special antennas all the way around the stadium. It knows where you are full time. I don't know if you knew that or not, but it does. It knows where you bought the ticket because you bought it on a mobile phone, and the mobile phone has location turned on, right? It knows when you're driving to the parking lot, and it can even notify you and say, don't go to parking lot A because it's flooded. Go to parking lot C, it's still open. And it knows in real time how many parking spaces are open in each of the parking lots, right? It knows when you go through the front door because you passed by one of these things. This is the guy who built the system. And it has an Internet of Things set of radios in it, and it can see your phone going by these are called Keysars. And if you try to walk by into the VIP lounge and you don't have access to that, it'll glow red, right? And it'll let the security people know you're not supposed to be there. It's going to know where you are full time, down to 1 meter in the stadium at all times. Now, when I say to people this, often somebody says, I'm going to turn that off. One guy said, I'm going to turn that shit off. That's the exact word it was. And I said, no, you're not going to turn that shit off. You're not going to turn off Bluetooth because you're not going to get food delivered to your seat the way I do. And in the bathrooms, there's a sensor that watches the line length of the bathrooms. And if you pull out your iPhone and ask it where's the closest bathroom, it's going to tell you where the closest bathroom is with the shortest line. So if you turn it off, you're not going to get that feature. And you're not going to get access to the VIP lounges if you turn it off, and on and on. And you might say, well, that's your funny stadium here in Silicon Valley, but American Airlines is doing this in the airports now with the American Airlines app. They've mapped out the airport. They know where you're standing plus or minus a meter, and they can navigate you to your gate or to the bathroom or to a sushi restaurant, right? They know where you are. You don't get hard to crash parties, that's right. Unless you got good social behavior. You should know about this guy. His dad started Zoran in Israel, but Daniel Elmog started a company called Topingo. And if you're at Santa Clara University, you're using Topingo already to buy everything. You wake up at 7 in the morning and you say, I'd like an iced latte. And it puts the order into the cloud. And there's a box in the Starbucks that lights up, beeps, and spits out a receipt that goes into the workflow of the Starbucks. And your phone says your latte will be ready at 7:29 a.m. And you go in and pick up the latte and leave. You don't tap anything. You don't talk to anybody. You don't hand over any cash. It does it like Uber. What's that? Yeah. It does it like Uber, right? But he further this here. He knows where all of his customers are full time. So if you're in the Starbucks and you're also in my class, it'll say, why don't you pick up Robert's latte and take it to class and you'll get you'll get $5 Topingo dollars. So he's starting a decentralized delivery network, right? And there's lots of companies trying to do delivery of various things here in San Francisco. Yeah. And he's building a virtual currency, a cryptocurrency of Bitcoin that's inside Topingo because he doesn't want to take money in and out of Visa because it costs 2%. So he's building his own cryptocurrency. So when this thing comes out for us in 6 years or 5 years, he's going to have a really good delivery network. He's going to have the infrastructure in all the restaurants, and he's going to be the bank. And you're going to just tell your glass, you know, Topingo, deliver me an In-N-Out hamburger to work. And one's going to show up in 5 or 10 minutes, right? Already here in San Francisco, we can get sprig salads delivered in 10, 15 minutes for $10, right? And a lot of other things, right? So this stuff is coming. That's what it all looks like. If you're at Koopa Cafe near where you guys are, the old way of ordering was to get off the seat, go wait in line, get to the front of the line, which might take, I don't know, 5, 10 minutes, order a sandwich and a latte, and then wait and for them to make it, and then sit back down. That would take 20, 30 minutes, right? Now you pull out your app and say, I want a sandwich and a latte, and one just shows up at your table, and you don't pay, you don't give any cash over. You don't have to find your credit card. It charges you for it automatically. And it does it because there's a beacon on the top of each table. And so it knows that you're sitting at table 13, and they have the same thing. They have an iPad in the counter where it lights up and beeps, and even calls the restaurant if they don't pick up the order, right? To remind them there's money sitting on the counter. Will you take care of the guy in table 13, right? It's Blackbox company, downtown app, yeah. And that's cool. Sales went up 25% the first week they put it in place, and 35% so far after putting this thing in. So I know more and more restaurants are going to do things like this. If you reduce friction in the world, you increase sales, and everybody gets happy. And soon, with our augmented reality glasses, we're going to want things like this. There's another company called House Call. Actually, the guys who built the beacons at Qualcomm, they left Qualcomm to start this company. And if you need a plumber or somebody for your house, painting, or need a TV hung on the wall or something like that, use the House Call app, and it schedules that person because the plumber has a calendar in this thing. It lets you talk to the plumber through this because there's a messenger built into this. And the reviews are all standardized, and only customers can write the reviews, so it doesn't have the Yelp problems where the competitors are writing bad reviews about the service. And the pricing is standardized. And then on Tuesday morning, when the plumber is coming to your house, you see the plumber coming to the house like you see Uber coming toward you, because everybody has a mobile phone and everybody knows where everybody is. And they know if you're home, by the way, because they can see your icon. Your mobile phone is home, right? And if you're not home, they can call you and go, are you going to meet me, or should I cancel today's trip? You start thinking about how information is shifting the world. I mean, I just went to Illinois and I met a company called Agrable, and he told me he does virtual farming. So this is 90 people company, right? And they build virtual crops to tell the farmers what to do tomorrow, right? Because they're taking all of the data from the Doppler radar, from the drones you guys are going to build, and the satellites that are over the farms, and the spot price of corn, all the data that he can get. He puts it into his virtual models, crunches the data, and analyzes the data. He said when he did his thesis project 20 years ago, it took 2 years to run 1 day's worth of data. And today it takes 2 seconds, right? So he can analyze the data and build virtual crops and offer a new service to farmers that never was possible before these databases got so big. But other companies are starting, like Vintank, started up here in the wine country, and all they do is watch when you say something about wine on social media, right? So if you say I bought a case of Camus on Camus, it would put you in a profile and it'd start watching. So think about what one tweet says about somebody. If you go to Camus and you say, I just bought a case of Camus, that tells me you make more than $100,000 because you can't afford Camus unless you make a pretty good salary. It tells me you probably are a business person because you're not going to appreciate Camus wine if you don't have a business expense account, right? Yeah. And it tells me you care about wine because you're not going to buy Camus if you just started drinking wine today, right? That's stupid to spend $200 on something you don't understand. Yeah. Yeah, but instantly I know something about your salary, right? And so if I own Paradox Winery, I'm going to wear little glasses. I talked to Sephora. They said, oh, yeah, we're playing with little glasses. So when you come in, you're going to be served differently based on who you are, right? So if you're coming from Camus and I'm selling Paradox, I'm going to take you to the reserve room, right? And I'm going to know that you're very willing to buy that, right? If you said the same tweet from Sutter Home, I know that you buy a $10 bottle of wine instead of a $200 bottle of wine. And I'm not going to take you to the reserve room. No, I'm going to talk to him. I'm going to take him over to this side of the bar and say, hey, check out my budget wines, right? I'm not going to take you to the $200 bottles of wine, right? And waste my time and waste my profits. And yeah, this is already happening, right? These guys are seeing 2 million tweets a day about wine, and it's going up exponentially, right? And the Shelfbox is building a grocery store, smart store. So you tap your phone to a Shelfbox display in a grocery store aisle, and it tells you about that aisle. And you don't even really need to tap it if you have a modern phone because it knows you're there already, right? There's 9 radios in here. It can see your phone walking by. So to end and then start the discussion, when I went to Facebook and saw the latest Oculus, they showed me this demo called Toy Box, where I'm wearing the Oculus, I'm holding these controllers, and then somebody else is somewhere else in the world. And we're playing over the internet, ping pong, shooting each other, lighting fireworks, throwing footballs, punching each other, uh, doing archery and stuff like that, shooting each other, having a lot of fun. So this is what's coming this year. We're going to have this kind of immersive experience, and I'm very much looking forward to that. And then two more years, 3 more years, we're going to get augmented reality, and that's going to open up a lot of opportunities for businesses like yours. So I'm all in. All in. Yeah. I'm buying them all. Thanks.
All right. So Robert is one of the people who, when they post on Facebook, should I crash the crunchies? 20 minutes later, he has a photo with one of the TechCrunch guys, and he's having a lot of fun there. How was that?
Yeah, it's fun.
Cool.
It's good to be king once in a while.
Every now and then. All right, so I'm gonna check Twitter for all of you guys who are asking questions on hashtag Ask Scoble. Yeah. But as a first question from me, I saw on Facebook that you posted about M. If you got $20, what would you do? So it's a question about virtual assistants. So I'm a fan of Amy.ai, and that's pretty cool as well. And we had Adam Shayer, one of the speakers here, and yeah, I'm really curious. What would you do with $20 if you had to spend them all in Facebook M? And what do you think about the whole initiative?
Everything. Let's set up that question a little bit differently. Siri was launched in my son's bedroom, and I got to see the back end of Siri. So Adam and Dad came to my house and showed me how it worked. And if you ask Siri something like, how many people are checked in at Rackspace on Foursquare, it understands you just fine. And Foursquare actually has an answer to that, right? There is an answer in Foursquare of how many people are checked in here. And Foursquare has an API, but Siri is not hooked up because the way it works, there's 80 lines of code that Apple needs to write to take the noun, verb, adjective that you just uttered and convert it into an API call, and then unconvert it back into a voice thing that Siri will say, oh, there's 5 people checked in at Rackspace right now. And it's hard-coded, so it doesn't work. If you ask Siri that, it'll give you a Bing answer. In other words, it fails and goes to Bing and tries to get you an answer, and it's a stupid answer. It doesn't make sense. And all of these, Siri, Cortana, Alexa, and the Amazon Echo product, all have this failing. They all, when they work, they're freaking amazing, right? Because you hit one of the use cases that was hard-coded, and it's amazing when it works. But when it doesn't work, it's very frustrating. and that's why it doesn't work. It's hard coded. So Viv, we should talk about Viv and then talk about M, because they come at this world through different philosophies, and they're going to make very different products because of that philosophy. Viv, which is Adam Chire and Dag's company, doesn't hard code anything. The program, when you search in Viv, it writes the 80 lines of code as you search. In 1/20th of a second, it's a program that writes a program. It's really advanced. It's completely cool computer science to see it work in the back end on your phone, when it writes the code. And so one, it's much more flexible right away. And it also can handle much more detailed queries than Siri can. Siri likes a simplistic query with one noun, one verb, one adjective, a very simplistic sentence. If you try to do 5, it breaks. It doesn't like that. Viv is going to be much more flexible on that side, so it'll understand you better. And then if it hits something like the Foursquare example, Foursquare the bottom is open, where Foursquare can say, anytime you hear the word Foursquare, even if you don't know how to answer it, just give us all that shit, and we'll figure it out, or we'll help you write the rules that will make the engine work. So it's an exponential learner. And you guys have heard about exponential things in the world, but Viv might start out very similar to Siri, but over time it's going to get smarter and smarter and smarter, because developers like all of you are going to be able to plug in at the bottom and say, hey, anytime you hear the word food, give me that. That's my brand name. I want to know everything about that, and then I'll start writing business rules for you and answering those questions. Viv also builds a profile. So if you ask it, can you deliver me a large pepperoni pizza from Roundtable, it builds a profile on you. And you can see the profile, which you can't with a lot of the tools. And you can fix the profile. If you don't like Roundtable anymore because they pissed you off, you can take that out of the profile so it doesn't keep serving you that way. And all of these are starting to build profiles. I mean, if you ask Amazon's Echo, hey, Alexa, buy me some more toilet paper, it says, oh, the last time you bought toilet paper, you bought the Charmin 2-ply 20-pack and it cost $19. Would you like the same thing? And you say yes, right? Again, the profile, it makes your life better and better over time, right? So it's also exponentially learning about you, and it's really going to learn about everything you do, right? And it has a neural network and a few other toys, but just the openness, the flexibility is going to make a really interesting new experience of using Viv versus Siri. So Viv is trying to do it all with computers, right? And it's trying to make it so that it's all algorithmic and no humans. M comes at it, we're going to do that too, but we're going to start with humans because we have no idea what you're going to ask, and we're going to answer every question, right? So if you ask it, where's the closest bathroom to 620 Folsom Street, Apple's never going to hard code that, right? But Viv will just look it up on a map, and somebody will be there and say, oh, there's one, a block away. Go to this restaurant. There's a bathroom there. And they might even call the restaurant and make sure the bathrooms are open. All sorts of fun stuff that you can do when you start out with humans. And so Facebook M is going to start out with humans and then slowly convert the question responses into computer code that so the computer will answer the second time, right? The human will answer the first time. After that, a computer is answering you because you asked the same question that Joe did 10 minutes ago, right? And so they come at the world very differently. So to answer the question, what would I do with $20 on Viv, or on M? I mean, I would probably, get me tickets for my son to see Star Wars tonight, or get me a sandwich delivered and deliver it to 620 Folsom Street by 7 p.m. because I'm going to need food, right? Something like that. But the people inside Facebook say the questions are quite interesting, and they're different than they were expecting, which shows the problem with hard coding. You just don't know how humans are going to use these things. And so I like the M approach of having a human do it first, and then and the human, by the way, is being assisted with a lot of technology, but have them then replace the most common ones with a computer answer.
I've got a tough question for you. You have been heavily into VR for some time now, since Google Glass days. Why do you
That's Google Glass.
augmented reality? Sorry, no, no.
Google Glass isn't really augmented reality either. It's a screen in your view. Like it's really like that screen right there, but it's permanently
Okay,
here.
in terms of application,
Yeah,
why do you
it's
think?
wearable computers? I would say that.
So why do you think Google Glass failed? One, two. Why do you think either of these two companies are going to make it?
Um,
I'm talking about Magic
Yeah.
Leap and
Google Glass was had a lot of problems. It wasn't. It was too early, and when you say too early, look at other things in history that were too early. The Newton was 10 years before the iPhone. Now we all carry a phone. But when the Newton came out, people made fun of it the same way people made fun of the Google Glass. The Newton just wasn't ready as a product. It just wasn't fast enough. It couldn't recognize what you wanted. The user interfaces weren't completed because even Apple didn't know what you wanted to do with it. It's sort of the M problem, right? What are you going to do with them? I don't know. Everything. But we won't really know what humans are going to do with it until it gets released to humans. And then they're going to shift all the resources to what humans actually use it for. And the same problem with Google Glass. Google Glass, the camera really sucked. The battery lasted 45 minutes. The mirror flaked off if you got wet or took it out, in salty air or put a sticker on it like I did. I broke it like 4 or 5 times. It was flimsy. It broke a lot. A lot of people broke them. They were $1,500, so the utility for what you paid was very low. And they had a really interesting new problem that people didn't know about before shipping this product. A lot of people blamed it on the camera. Had nothing to do with the camera. No, it had nothing to do with the red light, and I'll explain why I know this. But people blamed. I don't like the Google Glass. You're recording me. I had people tell me, "Are you recording me?" No, I'm not recording you. You're not interesting enough to record it. You really didn't care about recording, and I have proof of this. You cared about the social contract between us. We evolved as humans to look into each other's eyes to build trust with each other and know whether you're lying or know that I have your attention, right? If you start looking at your phone right now, I'm going to renegotiate our social contract. Is Facebook really more interesting than this right now? Really? Right? And I'm going to give you shit about it, right? And we do that all day long, right? We renegotiate our social contract. And here we had a piece of glass that lit up my eye between us, and it bothered you. And you didn't know why it bothered you, and you didn't have a language to tell other people why it bothered you, so you blamed it on the camera. And I know this because I was at Coachella. Now, Coachella is a big music festival, and I'm in the middle of 10,000 people, and they all are recording. Every single kid has their iPhone in the air recording the freaking thing. So it's not about recording. There was 2 people in front of me who said, I need to get away from the Google Glass people. Now, I wasn't wearing it, so I was like, what? And I started looking around because they were trying to get away. They were trying to get away from Google Glass, even though everybody was recording here. So there was something that had nothing to do with recording that was making them feel uneasy. And sure enough, there was 2 guys with Google Glass on, and they weren't recording because I can tell if they are recording or not. I know enough about how it works to be able to look in the screen and see if they're recording. But it was the social contract. It was weird. It looks weird with a thing in your eye that's lighting up your eye. You look like a robot, right? And it makes you feel uncomfortable. It fucks with your social contract. And also, it's elitist. If I couldn't afford it, I didn't know what the hell you were doing in it. What are you doing? Are you doing a body scan on me? It was weird technology that I had no context of understanding what it did. Once you had it, you realize how stupid it is, right? And in fact, that was the other problem. The first day I got mine home, my wife asked me, "Oh, can I wear that and it'll tell me everybody's name that I'm looking at?" I'm like, "No, it's not nearly that good." But that was the expectation. Google showed this kind of augmented world where you're going to wear the glass and it's going to assist you living your life. And so it set in place that expectation. Now, since Google Glass came out, Copen has made the screen smaller and smaller. I saw Carl Zeiss has a waveguide screen that looks like a normal pair of glasses, and I could not tell there was digital information being displayed. So this problem is going away. We're all going to have glasses soon. And I'm not even going to know that you're wearing glasses, that are smart glasses in the future, right? The screens are going to be so small, and they're going to be built right into the eyeglass frames. I'm not going to know when I walk in a store. I'm not going to know that person's looking at my profile information on Salesforce, right? And the problem is going to go away. The other thing is the things will be foldable so you can take them off at inappropriate times, because it's not appropriate to be wearing computers on a date, or at a movie theater, stuff like that, right? Even though people will, I think we're going to redefine what it is to be a human in this new world. The second part of your question was, why is this different? Why? Because this is true augmented reality. This is putting an image on the real world and augmenting your work, your fun, your art, your world. You can put CNN here, or like I'm missing TED right now. I have the live TED Talk screen. I could put that here on the floor and just watch it when I'm talking to you, right? Yeah. And you would be watching something else on the floor, or I could share TED with you and say, you want to watch TED? It's on the floor, or it's on that wall. I'll put TED on that wall, and or I'll replace that screen with TED, and you won't even know, right? Because I'll just be wearing a piece of glass. It is so compelling that Stephen Wolfram cried when he got his demo of Meta. And I cried. It is an emotional experience to have the world augment this way, right? To think about the magic that you are experiencing. And at the conference last week, at the Unity conference, everybody, when I go to a conference, I start asking people, what's hot here? What's cool? Everybody's like, you got to see the HoloLens demo. HoloLens is a little tiny screen augmenting compared to the Meta, and it was still the #1 demo, right? So I know this stuff is interesting to people, and VR is the same way. I watched people come out of demos at Web Summit, and they were all saying, "Holy shit, I want one," and it's a life-changing demo, right? So I watch emotion like that, and people wearing Google Glass never had that emotion. We had other emotions like, this isn't really what we want. It's close, but it didn't get to the promise of, an augmented experience where it shows us about the world. It's a little taste, but it wasn't nearly satisfying, and the product just wasn't there in a whole number of ways. The Copen screens, by the way, they're now lasting 4 to 8 hours on a battery. The Google Glass was lasting 45 minutes. The audio controller, Google Glass I could take control of your Google Glass by saying, Glass, do something, and the new microphones don't let you do that. And you're seeing the innovation in the industry, the voice recognition and Siri and Viv and Alexa are getting better and better and better. So these things are starting to work better and better, right? And all of them are learning at some level from us. So they're getting better and better, and they're going to keep coming. It might be another 5, might be another 10 years, but they're going to come. And one day you're going to see a product that's like, bam, that's the product everybody's going to have, right? Same way the iPhone was 10 years after the Newton, right?
So, do you have a bet on which one technology would that be? Because we did have a lot of comments, also from John Markov, that this cannot be the interface that we will be using a few years from now.
That I guarantee you,
Yeah.
in 5 to 10 years, it's certainly within a decade, we are not going to
Yeah.
use this. Absolutely true. Right now, the Magic Leap is the best. It works in bright sunlight, where the Meta one, they show it to you in a darker room. And so Magic Leap is ahead. But I met the head of developer relations last night. He says, "Man, this is so early days. These products have years of development still to go
Yeah.
before they're a consumer product." Yeah, we us will have them in 2 or 3 years, but they won't be able to get rid of the mobile phone in 2 or 3 years. It'll
True.
take 5 or 10 before it gets to the place where I'm not carrying my iPhone anymore.
Nice. So I also have a question from the audience about robots. So again, about consumers. So which one do you think would be the most adopted consumer robot? That's from Antti from Cosify. They're in IoT.
I haven't met yet a robot I liked for the home. I mean, we're barely to the place where we're liking Amazon Echo in the home, and that's a little cylinder that has 8 microphones on it, and you say, "Alexa, what's the weather?" and it tells you the weather, or "Alexa, what's the stock market doing today?" or "Alexa, read me a book, read me Future Industries by Alex Park," something like that. Alexa, set the timer on my stove to 5 minutes. Alexa, tell me a joke. By the way, if you say, "Alexa, are you single?" it says, "I'm attached to the wall." It's sort of funny. So they put a little sense of humor into it, right? But it's training us that it's okay to have something in your house that's listening, that's going to interact with you on common things, on tasks. But the robots have seen, I mean, beyond the vacuum cleaner, which is a little robot, right? The Roomba kind of things, or the window cleaning robots. The promise of the robot industry hasn't gotten to where I have fallen in love with it yet. I've fallen in love with Alexa. I haven't yet seen one that's a consumer-based robot. But there's robots that are taking off inside stores and inside help desks at airports and stuff like that. And I think that's where the humans are going to get their first relationship with a robot there. And the industry is going to monetize on robots in that kind of situation because there's a business model there. And the techniques they're going to learn are going to come in the house. But there are some that are cute, maybe good for senior parents to make them feel like somebody's there with them, But it's not yet to where I'm laying down. All of my money this year is going into VR. All my extra money. I have $3,000 I've been saving. It's going into VR, right? I'm not yet to the place where I'm like feel emotional to buy a robot. Yeah. And is that true of anybody in this room? Does anybody have a robot in their house? Yeah. Roomba. Yeah. Yeah. That certainly is happening, right? Yeah. But that's not, I don't think about that as because I have a drop cam, I have a Ring doorbell, I have a Nest thermostat, a Nest smoke detector, I have the Amazon Echo. I just got a new thing for the garden to control the garden. So the Internet of Things revolution is really changing my home. But that's not what I think of as a robot. I think of that maybe as an assistive home or a digital home or something like that. But the Jibo, I've seen it. I just haven't fallen in love with it. It's not. Nobody comes up to me saying the reason I bought the Alexa. By the way, everybody in my talks who had one said, "I love that thing. You should get one." And I haven't yet heard that from anybody oh, you got to get the Jibo. It's fucking amazing. It does, when it starts washing my dishes, maybe. That's what we all want. That's our stereotypical robot. Can we buy a $3,000 robot so it can just keep our dishes clean and do our laundry? That would be cool, right? But we haven't gotten to that place yet. Right? It's too expensive. It's coming though.
So, how do you see AI changing the future for Google and Facebook?
Viv is an exponential learner, right? And Viv, if it learns faster than Google, and if Google can't make its systems learn as fast, 8 years from now, are we using Google anymore? Probably not, right? And it could happen. There's plenty of big companies that used to be really big companies. They're gone now because a disruptive technology comes along. But I know Google's working on their own. Yeah. Well, what's funny, when you meet with the Siri team, they all know the other guy's product really well. Adam told me, "Oh, Google's kicking our ass at Siri because it's learning faster." I go, "How do you know that?" He goes, "Oh, we instrumented all of the Google staff so that we know how fast it's learning and how fast it's pulling ahead of us, so we know we need to rewrite our engines to learn faster, and we need to come up with better." And I think that's where Viv came from, right? They knew that they couldn't move fast enough at Apple to make it happen, so they went and started another company, and now they have an exponential learner, and we'll see if anybody figures it out. It's a pretty, when you actually see it and break it down, it's a fairly simple concept, but really advanced computer science. I mean, the thing writes 80 lines of code in every time you search, right? It's like, wow, that is not normal computer science. That's not the computer science I remember studying in school. This is a new brand of computer science, and it's quite amazing to watch. And by the way, the same kind of computer science is being done for augmented reality, because as you walk around the world, it needs to recognize things, right? And it needs to bring you information about that logo or about you, right? And the self-driving cars, same way. It needs to see a kid running across the grass, and it needs to predict, is that kid going to run into the street? And the car manufacturers and the owner, it'll be a shared responsibility, because for the next 15 years, you're going to have a steering wheel in the car. So did you touch the steering wheel? Did you touch the brakes?
Yeah.
Did you trust the car? Because maybe you overrode the car, right? In the Mercedes that I got to ride in, you could override. If you left it alone, it drove, and it drove very well. But you can override, and now who's at risk now? And it's going to know, because it's going to record. If there's an accident, it's going to record the last 60 seconds of everything. And and it's going to be up on the cloud, and the cops are going to pull it up and go, you stepped on the gas. You're at fault, not the car, right? So,
all right.
yeah.
So
cars, we could spend a whole 2 hours talking about cars and how law is going to change, because I went to Virginia's tech.
I was going to ask you about that.
Yeah, to the smart road, and the technology of intra-car communication is about to change. They're putting chips now in the car to have the cars communicate with each other, because the sensors on the self-driving car can only see 100 meters in front, and if there's a truck in front of you, you can't see in front of the truck, right? So if you're following a truck and a crash happens 3 cars in front of you, and everybody's stepping on the brake, emergency braking situation, your car should just start slowing down, because it should be communicating with the cars in front of the truck and understanding, hey, everybody's slamming on their brakes because something is happening. And so you should slow down instead of having to go into an emergency situation. Keep in mind, in an emergency situation, a self-driving car will probably stop in time, but the guy behind you is a human, and he's going to wipe you out if you don't slow down slow, because he's not going to stop in time. Humans are not fast enough. In fact, we know this. Ford's head of safety told me in accidents, 80% of humans have not applied full braking pressure to the brake. So we know humans are not fast enough, and a computer will be fast enough. So a computer will stop the car. and then you'll hit the car. And in fact, the Google cars are already, this is already happening with the Google car. The car stopping for some reason, and the guy behind them is on the fucking phone and hits the car, right? It didn't stop in time.
I think that happens more often than not. It's occurs when texting and all of that. So I have some questions and just a few more minutes, so we will do kind of like a speed round, I guess.
Yeah.
So from Michelle Glauser, she's asking, which tech skills do you think are most needed for someone new to the tech industry?
Unity.
Which one?
Unity.
Unity.
Unity is the the system that the VR systems are using, and soon the AR systems will use to draw the virtual worlds that you're going to be in. And that's a hot industry right now, and it's going to be hot for decades.
Cool.
And whatever skill you learn in Unity will apply to whatever's next in that industry. But we need a lot of people to build a lot of entertainment, education, journalism, banking apps, all sorts of stuff that's going to be built in virtual reality. That's a
Awesome.
big industry.
Next, what do you think is the best use case for enterprise wearables?
Well, we already have it. It's anything that you can view in CAD. So if you're working at a Boeing on jet engines, the jet engine is a CAD drawing, right? And so you can augment the physical engine with the CAD drawing. And in fact, that's exactly what they're doing. If you wear the ODG glasses at Caterpillar, they teach you how to maintain a Caterpillar tractor by augmenting the tractor and putting virtual images on top of the real engine and saying, this is where the first 4 screws that you have to undo are, lift up this cover, and then look at this.
Yeah.
And and it teaches you how to change, how to maintain an engine. Disney's using this for parks. Ford's using this for cars. Architect firms are using it to visualize architecture, because this building is a CAD drawing somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And so if you want to look at this building, it's a CAD drawing. And so Meta already has 140 customers, and they're all doing some sort of CAD manipulation.
Cool.
Right?
Sad?
I've got a lot of questions for you from my guys back on my website. So, since they're hardware enthusiasts, they really want to know what are the specs of your home computer, or if the computer that you game on.
No, but if you're buying an Oculus or a HTC Vive, so the Oculus, you buy the headset, that's $600, and then you need a PC. It doesn't work on Macintosh, and the PC needs to be a fairly nice one, but it needs a huge NVIDIA card. So I'm looking at there's actually a website that shows different levels from $1,500 to $2,500 that you can buy from Alienware or Dell or whatever. And I'm going to buy the high end because I never buy the minimum spec. And I'm actually probably going to have a kid. There's a kid in Arizona that I'm that's trying to start a business making games for the VR or PCs. But find your local kid who's 14, 15. They're all building their own gaming PC with NVIDIA card in it, and have them build you a nice one.
Okay. Another question is, what are your thoughts on quantum computing and whether we'll see it in application anytime soon?
I did an interview at Microsoft Research where they explained how it's coming along. That's probably the way she put it. You're going to hear about it every year more and more, but we're probably 15 years away from a real breakthrough where it would really impact us. But maybe we're wrong there. Maybe it's 7 years. Maybe it's 30. Right. So there's a window there that they're not. The leading edge computer scientists don't really know, but the computers, at least at the data center scale, are going to be very, very fast compared to what we have today. So I just walked through a $300 million computer at the University of Illinois, the supercomputer there. And so that is going to be a very slow computer compared to some of the quantum stuff that's being thought out, But we don't have it yet. They don't have it. So until I can go to University of Illinois or somewhere in China and see one, it's not here yet. But it's theoretically possible, and there are companies doing small scale, slower simulations of it, and we'll see if they have the breakthrough that lets them actually do what they believe is possible, and that might be 10 to 15 years away.
Your future for mobile OS wars. And do we write off Windows 10 on mobile?
Yes, Windows on mobile is. I mean, does anybody in this room have Windows Mobile phone? Nah, I mean today, not a single person.
But what about the rest of the Android versus iOS? Who wins?
I don't care. The new argument is which augmented reality glass are you going to have? Yeah, that. I mean, I don't care that you have an Android or an iPhone at this point. They both basically do the same thing. Yeah, iPhone's a little bit ahead on apps. Uh, Android's a little bit ahead on openness and some of the contextual apps. There's nothing back and forth that's really mind-blowing. What's going to happen this year is on the Android side of the fence, we're going to get Google Tango phones, which have depth sensors, so you can name the phone around the world and start to augment the world this way. In fact, two of the guys who started the Tango team are at Meta. That's a good hint, right? That these techniques to depth map the world are going to be important in the future, right? When the leaders of the Tango team leave and go to an augmented reality company, that's a good sign of where you should aim your future, because these things are going to. Well, it's not just money; it's businesses, right?
Yeah.
You know, yeah, it's going to take 5 years to get there, but when it does, there's a paradigm shift coming, and paradigm shifts are hard to predict when the normal person gets them, but because you can see them coming, you can start shifting your career and start learning skills and start thinking of your business. How does it fit in that world? Is it going to get disrupted by that world? If everybody's wearing glasses that are showing things full time, is your company going to thrive in that world, or is it going to be disrupted by that world because somebody made something cool for this that's going to hurt you? But I think that's how the Valley's thinking about it right now. It's like who are going to be, who's set up for this world, who's not, what skills do we need, how do we fund companies to be pitched in this world? Because these are going to be multi-$100 billion shifts. These are not small little shifts. If what they're saying is true, and I believe it is, that everybody's going to have a glass on and we're going to interact with the world this way, that's a huge shift for culture, for theme parks, for movies, for all sorts of stuff. And in fact, when you meet with the futurists at each of these, they're already seeing these things coming. Sephora has a team building virtual cosmetics, right? Why? Because they sense that it's coming, and that could be $1 billion industry that you're going to buy virtual cosmetics, right?
Cool.
And at minimum, you're going to go into a Sephora store and learn how to apply
I saw those
cosmetics in the virtual reality or in the augmented reality glasses, and they're already starting to do that with mobile phones, right?
Yeah, it works great. We just have to figure out when the tipping point will actually happen.
5 years.
5 years. Cool. All right. So maybe one last question. We have one of our entrepreneurs from Switzerland, so he's really curious about this sign, and then he's asking how can Switzerland actually become more like Silicon Valley? How can they be more innovative?
Wrong question. Be more Switzerland. get the Valley to react to you, not the other way around. Rackspace went through a pivot over the last 18 months, where we're now providing fanatical support for all the best clouds, Azure and AWS at this point. And that was a pretty sizable philosophical change, because when I started at Rackspace, we thought we were going to be a competitor of Amazon. Now we're providing support to Amazon and doing pretty well with that. Where else? The question about Switzerland and Silicon Valley.
It's more of a global question, right?
Yeah,
Because
I
all
get
of
it
these
all the
people are
time.
coming from all over the world. And I think you went to a few places in the US as well, and you said, okay, well, maybe it's not all about Silicon Valley anymore, right?
Yeah,
So,
the world is flattening out.
yeah.
It still is. Silicon Valley still has some unnatural advantages over other places. We have a huge number of capital here that understands how to take risks and understands how to finance things like Magic Leap. I keep in mind, Magic Leap has no customers, has no product, and got funded $1.3 billion. Right? That's crazy to most people. To us, that's how things work. You bet on something new, you think that there's a huge new market, you have an entrepreneur who is showing you a fantastic new vision. Let's try. And if it costs us $1 billion, oh well, we're willing to put that capital at risk. And we don't think it, after seeing the demos, I don't think it's very risky. But it is risk. There is some risk though, right? Compared to putting $1 into a car company or into a clothing company or something like that, right?
Is it a shift in risk taking that more people should
That's
adopt this risk taking culture?
and they are, right? When you travel around the world, in Israel there's now venture capital, or in London there's venture capital, in Beijing there's certainly a lot of venture capital that understand there's there's an ecosystem of people uh, uh, who are rich, who understand how to take risks this way and know that this is the future of business. Um, but there's still plenty of places in the world where they don't have access to the capital. So you got to come here and grab capital and maybe take it back home, um, which is hard because the money likes to be close to the business so that they can,
Most of the time.
yeah. And there is an ecosystem here of people who will help you out with your business. And you go into a coffee shop here and everybody's talking about starting a business. And it's like Hollywood, right? If you want to be an actor, you got to go to Hollywood. You can't go to San Francisco. There's no movie companies here, right? So it's the same. There is a natural advantage here. But the answer is find a way to keep the nerds in your town and don't let them move to San Francisco, which means find a way to convince rich people to finance them. Find a way to put high-speed bandwidth in your town so that the nerds don't feel like they want to move to Silicon Valley or someplace else where there's good bandwidth to build a company. You know, um, find a way to build nightclubs, right? Which, right?
That's
If
a
you're
good,
a 25-year-old entrepreneur and you work all day long and you get out at 11 p.m. and there's nothing to do, you like, I'm moving my company somewhere there is something to do. In fact, SoundCloud moved from Northern Europe to Berlin for that reason, right? Because they wanted to be in the music culture and they liked to go to nightclubs at night. And when they went to hire people, same thing, right? You hire 25-year-old engineers coming out of school, they like to have something to do. So your town better have something to do. In fact, Illinois just went through this. The mayor uh, used tax money to decorate the downtown, and they now have restaurants and nightclubs and comedy clubs, places for people to go, so that the entrepreneur doesn't feel like they have to leave and go somewhere else to start a company because they can't hire anybody because there's nothing to do in town, right? Um, and you start thinking about it like that, a multi-layered approach.
definitely.
How can you change tax laws to attract entrepreneurs to you and not repel them? Um, and that's the common,
Yeah.
you start having a multi-layered approach and all of a sudden your economy starts working better because you have small companies who are doing interesting things and all of a sudden one of them becomes really important and Apple buys it for $500 million. Now you have a few people in town who have money and it starts,
Yeah.
getting bigger, right?
True. I mean, there's a lot of discussion around that, and there's lots of research that people can do into that topic. But it's great to see that the world is flattening out. So we're very happy with that, and we're supporting a
Well,
lot of entrepreneurs everywhere.
back in the 70s when Silicon Valley was getting going, uh, communicating was
Yeah.
possible.
True.
There was no email, there was no web, there was no ICQ even. There was nothing in
Yeah.
the same. And so you had to be right next to the venture capital. Otherwise, you weren't even going to start a company.
Yeah.
And you had to be right next to where all the engineers were because you wouldn't get talent to start an Apple.
True.
And today you can get talent that I met a guy in Ireland who was working for Matt Mullenweg here in San Francisco, and he had never even met him, right? So a new kind of company can form, and you can have talent around the world. You can have team meetings now with video conferencing is really getting amazing.
Yeah.
In fact, Meta has a video conferencing demo that you actually see an avatar of the person standing on the floor, right?
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, so we can call Joe in from Israel, and he can be standing right there, and we can all look at him.
All right. So, sorry.
Well, Rackspace, keep in mind, Rackspace doesn't care anymore. Rackspace is a service layer on top of Amazon and Microsoft and whatever else comes along, and we'll be providing support for other things. The 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 new data center workloads are going to be done on GPUs, on NVIDIA cards. So the winners in the new workloads are going to be companies that innovate and bring new data centers with GPUs. Because when you have a glasses or a self-driving car or a robot that's looking around at your kitchen trying to figure out what's a fork and a knife, it needs to go to a GPU somewhere to do that kind of vision learning, right? And so we need new data centers, and Amazon is pretty good on that. Google is building new data centers with a lot of this stuff. In fact, my prediction from last year came straight from a Google engineer and said, "This is what we're doing. We're putting in new NVIDIA technology to make huge addressable memory spaces in the data center and huge addressable memory spaces on the GPUs because we're trying to do driverless cars where the car is recognizing signs, recognizing people, and doing new workloads that aren't possible on Intel processors, right?"
All right, so we should wrap this up. If you guys have other questions, then you can approach Robert afterwards. Maybe one last question, if you don't mind. You have a lot of startups approaching you all the time. Oh, Robert, can I pitch you? Can I show you? Can I? How do you spot the one? When you say, "Hey, I like you. I'm gonna do a 3D video of your, startup," or
"Are you as cool as Magic Leap? I want to talk." No, not very many people are going to have companies that cool, right? So then I start, right now I'm reconfiguring my whole life around VR and AR because I'm really passionate about this new world. And so I'm starting to see that, I'm starting to judge you. Are you in the VR AR space? Do you have something to say about this space? Do you have a product or service that's going to fit in that space? Let's talk. But even more basic, I go through and who brought me the company. If Mark Andreessen calls me and says this company's freaking amazing, you got to see it. That's different than if you just cold call me, right? And these are standard tips for calling up a venture. I think you'll think it's cool. Well, then I'll look at product hunt, and if you're low down on the list, I know you're not cool, right? Product hunt, product hunt, yeah. Product hunt now is site where you can release a little video of what your product does, and people vote on it, upvotes, or you see upvote and get, right. If I click get, that means I want that thing, right. And so if there's 1,000 gets, or 1,000 upvotes, and you're high on the list that day, all of a sudden you're looking cool, right. If I go to your iTunes store or your app store and you don't have any reviews, I don't care, right? I can write you off really easily, right? And the same is true of everything. As a book author, I had 100 reviews on the first day, and we were 4.9 average score on 100 reviews. And I worked my ass off to get those 100 reviews. Why? Because people are judging me the same way I'm judging you, right?
Yeah.
And if you're looking at a grid of books, and this one has 30 reviews, and this one has 10, and this one has 90, you're going to buy the one that has 90. It's going to stand out. That's the book to buy, right?
Cool.
And the same thing for your company. If on Product Hunt you're number one, great, I'll keep listening, because I'm looking at this stuff while you're talking to me. What's your Product Hunt review? What's your Google thing say? What's your reviews on the iTunes store, on the Android store, right? And then even if I tell you go away, I'm not interested. If I keep hearing about it, and if you're really hot, if you're really magical, I'm going to keep hearing about it for years before you ship a freaking product, right? I've heard about Magic Leap for 2 years now, and they haven't shipped the fucking product yet. So by the time that they're shipping the product, every journalist in the world is going to be in that room. That's how you build a multi-billion-dollar business, right?
Yeah, those are good tips.
Yeah, but,
awesome.
But you can't do that on every company, but you can use the same techniques to put social pressure. And here's another one.
Okay.
When I walked into Dogpatch Labs, which was a space like this, and
in Ireland.
No, here in San Francisco.
I have one here.
They used to be out on the pier, and I was there to see some other company, and I asked everybody, in fact, I asked you guys, what's the hot company? And if everybody points at one, and in that space, everybody says, you got to see what these kids are doing with this product called Instagram.
Cool.
And so that's why I was the 79th user of Instagram, because everybody in the class was like already keyed in on the fact that this was pretty hot shit.
Nice. Awesome.
And so the trick is to make your peers believe you're the one, because then they're going to tell me, hey, this thing at Blackbox is the one. I'm going to keep hearing about it.
Cool. Okay, so we don't really know which one is the best, because we actually believe that all of them are. But I mean,
that's
the
politically correct. That's the politically correct thing to say. And then I take you to the bar and get you fucked up, and then I hear the truth. And the truth is, there's always one or two that everybody's like, that thing is cool.
All right, we'll see about
or I'll ask you to show me your phone and show me what you're actually using, and you'll be
that's
using,
a better one.
Right?
Cool. All right.
And the Product Hunt is the same thing. If you only have one vote on Product Hunt, you're not the one. I'm sorry. Go and work somewhere, and until you get 100 at least to say you're cool, right?
Yeah, it's tough work, but if you get a lot of good responses from the general public, then you're on the right track. So yeah, we got to see that as well.
And screw it all. If you have customers, laugh all the way to the bank.
Awesome.
That's the best one, right?
Yeah, that's the best line to close on as well. So Robert, thank you so much for your time. And lots of thanks to Rackspace as well. And yeah, I'm happy to hear that you guys are doing so well and working with Amazon and a lot of other people. So it's awesome. So yeah, let's break for dinner and drinks, and hopefully have more time to chat with our folks and Rackspace startups as well. Cool. Thanks, Robert.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.